It's so special, they make me more and more special. To be Filipino is something I take so much pride in.
Roger Federer does not give his attention to just anyone. This is a man who has won 20 Grand Slam titles, who has shared courts with the greatest players in the history of the sport, who has seen thousands of talented young players come and go throughout a career that spanned 3 decades. He is not impressed easily. He does not gesture toward just anyone. So when Roger Federer, the most iconic, most celebrated, most universally respected figure in the entire history of tennis, personally gifts Alex Eala a golden racket, the tennis world does not just pay attention. It stops completely dead in its tracks. And the jealousy that erupted from certain corners of the sport the moment that story broke tells you everything you need to know about exactly how threatened people are by this young woman from the Philippines. Let that image sit with you for a moment. A golden racket. From Roger Federer. Not a retweet. Not a casual courtside compliment picked up by a microphone. A physical, deliberate desk gesture from the greatest tennis player who ever lived, directed specifically at Alex Eala. In the language of professional tennis, that is not a small thing. That is a coronation. That is one legend looking across the generations and pointing at the next one saying, "This is her. This is the one you need to watch." And the reaction from certain players, certain media figures, and certain corners of the tennis establishment? Pure, undisguised, almost embarrassing envy. Because when someone like Federer makes a gesture like that, it does not just validate Alex Eala in the eyes of her fans. It shifts the entire conversation. It moves her from promising young talent into a completely different category. And there are people in this sport who are absolutely not ready for that conversation to happen. But before we get into the envy and the politics and the reactions that have been circling this story, we need to talk about why Federer did this. Because nothing Roger Federer does is accidental. Nothing is careless. In 20-plus years in the spotlight, this man has managed his image, his relationships, and his public gestures with the kind of precision and intentionality that goes far beyond tennis. When Federer makes a move, it means something. When Federer chooses to spotlight someone, he has thought about it, he has watched, he has evaluated, and he has decided that this person deserves the moment. So what has he seen in Alex Eala that moved him to make this gesture? Think about what Federer values in a tennis player. He has always spoken about the artistry of the game, the elegance of shot construction, the intelligence of point building, the ability to perform under pressure, not just with physical resilience, but with a kind of composed grace that separates the truly great from the merely excellent. He has spoken throughout his career about the mental dimension of tennis being just as important as the physical one, maybe more so. And when you watch Alex Eala compete, when you really study what she does on a tennis court, you start to understand immediately why someone like Federer would take notice. She plays the game the right way. Not just effectively, beautifully. There is a craftsmanship to her game that is increasingly rare in the modern era of power baseline tennis. The way she constructs points, the patience she exercises under pressure, the left-handed angles she creates that pull opponents completely out of their comfort zones. It carries a quality that goes beyond raw athleticism. It carries tennis intelligence. And Roger Federer, more than almost anyone alive, recognizes and respects tennis intelligence when he sees it. He also sees something else. He sees what Alex Eala represents beyond the sport itself. Federer has spent years since his retirement investing in the future of tennis, in growing the game globally, in expanding its reach into markets and communities that have historically been underserved by the sports establishment. And Alex Eala is doing something in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines specifically, that no tennis player has ever done before. She is not just winning matches, she is building a movement. She is inspiring an entire generation of young people in a region of the world with over 600 million people to pick up a racket and believe that the grandest stages in sport are accessible to them. That is not just good for Alex Eala, that is genuinely good for tennis, and Federer knows it. The golden racket is a symbol. It is Federer saying, loudly and clearly, and with the full weight of his legendary status behind it, the future of this sport has a face, and that face belongs to a young woman from the Philippines who has earned everything she is about to receive. Now let's talk about the envy, because the reaction from certain quarters has been revealing in ways that go far beyond this single story. The moment news of Federer's gesture spread across tennis social media and beyond, something interesting happened. Instead of the overwhelming celebration you might expect when the sport's greatest icon endorses one of its brightest young talents, a different energy started circulating. Quiet resentment from certain players, dismissive commentary from media figures who have consistently underestimated Eala throughout her career, subtle but unmistakable pushback from people who seem genuinely uncomfortable with the idea that a Filipino tennis player is receiving this level of recognition from this level of source. And here is what makes that reaction so telling. Nobody questions Federer's tennis judgment. Nobody in their right mind sits down and argues that Roger Federer does not understand the sport well enough to identify exceptional talent. His credibility in that department is beyond dispute. So when people push back against his endorsement of Alex Eala, they are not really questioning his judgment about her tennis. They are revealing something else entirely. They are revealing their own discomfort with her rise, their own resistance to a narrative that does not fit the traditional mold of what a tennis superstar is supposed to look like and where she is supposed to come from. Alex Eala does not come from a country with a long tennis tradition. She does not fit the European or North American template that the sports establishment has always defaulted to when imagining its next great champion. She is Filipino. She carries the hopes of an entire Southeast Asian nation on her shoulders. She has built her following not through the traditional pathways of the sport, but through pure, undeniable, impossible to manufacture authenticity. And that combination, the talent, the identity, the fan base, the momentum, is producing a level of envy from certain corners of the tennis world that is becoming increasingly difficult to conceal. We saw it in how the Australian Open handled her court assignments. We saw it in the officiating controversies that followed her through the tournament. We saw it in the relentless media narrative suggesting she needs to fire the coach who built her. And now we are seeing it in the reaction to Federer's gesture. This barely concealed irritation that someone outside the established order is receiving the kind of validation that the establishment reserved for itself. But here is what the envious voices consistently fail to understand. Gestures like Federer's golden racket do not just validate Alex Eala in the moment. They accelerate her trajectory in ways that are very difficult to slow down. When the most respected figure in your sport publicly endorses you, when that endorsement generates global headlines and sends millions of new eyes toward your career, the momentum that follows is real, and it is lasting. Sponsors pay attention. Tournament directors pay attention. Young players across Asia and beyond pay attention. The story of Alex Eala just got bigger, and it is going to keep getting bigger, and there is genuinely nothing the skeptics and the resentful voices can do about it. Federer has seen the future, and he has given it a name. He has taken the most iconic object in his sport, a racket, gilded it, and placed it in the hands of a 20-year-old from the Philippines who has spent her entire career proving that she belongs at the highest level. That gesture will be talked about for years. It will be part of the Alex Eala story long after the people who reacted with envy and dismissal have been completely forgotten. Think about what this means for the broader cultural moment that Alex Eala represents. Tennis has spent decades trying to crack the Asian market in a meaningful, sustainable, authentic way. It has tried marketing campaigns and exhibition events and wildcard entries, and none of it has produced the kind of genuine, organic, passionate engagement that Alex Eala has generated simply by being extraordinary at what she does and being completely, unapologetically herself while doing it. She has done more for tennis in the Philippines and across Southeast Asia in 2 years than the sport's governing bodies managed to do in 20. And now, she has the blessing of Roger Federer. The EA Army already knew what the rest of the world is slowly catching up to. They knew before the rankings climbed. They knew before the endorsements came. They knew before Jessica Pegula stood up and called out the WTA on her behalf. They knew before Novak Djokovic called her the greatest tennis player the Philippines has ever produced. And they certainly knew before Roger Federer handed her a golden racket and told the world exactly what he thinks of her future. The envy is real. The resistance is real. The uncomfortable silence from certain players and media figures who should be celebrating this moment is real. But none of it matters. Because at the end of every conversation about the politics and the jealousy and the establishment's discomfort with her rise, there is Alex Eala on a tennis court, competing with everything she has, building a legacy that no amount of envy can touch. Roger Federer did not gift her a golden racket because he felt sorry for her. He did not do it as charity or as a feel-good publicity moment. He did it because he recognizes greatness in its early stages, and he wanted the world to pay attention. The man has an eye for this that is unmatched in the history of the sport, and he pointed that eye directly at Alex Eala. The rivals can keep their envy. She has the golden racket, and she has barely even started yet. Now I want to hear from you. What did you feel when you first heard about Federer gifting Alex Eala that golden racket? Do you think this moment is a genuine turning point in how the tennis establishment perceives her? And to the EA Army, does this feel like the validation you have always known was coming? Drop everything you are thinking in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe for more unfiltered tennis content, and turn on notifications because the Alex Eala story is moving fast, and you do not want to miss a single moment of what comes next.